be on Chaos Managed. Let's talk.
And we're taking up in part 2 of our series of unknown numbers. It's going to be,
keeps going.
I know, well, there's so much. It's going to be all about the VA disability ratings.
Exactly. And
This
what
is
the
the new
percentages, well, it's what those percentages actually mean.
Well, yeah, because I think a lot of people, they think traditional ways of...
Well, that's the math that everybody was taught. We're going to do a little disclaimer here before we dive into our subject. We're not attorneys.
No, sadly, we did not go that route. We would have been very good at arguing cases, that's for sure.
We probably would have been ferreting out information. But yeah, we're not attorneys.
No.
We're just here to offer encouragement, give a little bit of information based on what
Things
we
know.
found.
Yeah, just what our personal experience and knowledge level has become.
Exactly.
This is not advice.
No.
We're not counseling. None of that.
No, we're just pointing out the things that we found.
Right.
Because we are wives of disabled veterans and we're walking this path with you.
Yes, we are. And we know there are many of you out there that are going, I don't even know where to begin. How does this work? What's it all about? And oh my, the paperwork.
Exactly. And you know, one of the biggest misunderstandings in VA disability world is, like you said, what those percentages actually mean.
Oh, yeah, because when you get right down to it, 70% disability rating isn't 70% the way that we would think about it. It's
no, the math involved just doesn't check out.
It doesn't.
Standard math.
So, you know, we're going to have to get into this one, break it down into little pieces and explain what they're really talking about in normal terms.
Yeah, plain English, things that we can...
So stuff that's understandable and actually makes sense, even though the math doesn't.
Yeah, so hang with us and let's get started.
Okay, so what's a disability rating?
Well, in a nutshell, it's a percent that is assigned to a service-connected condition.
Okay. So, and then when we look at this percent, it's what it actually is representative of.
Yes, exactly.
So it's saying that how much your condition actually impairs your ability to function every single day.
Exactly. And it can be anywhere from 0 to 100%.
Right.
And it's actually done in 10% increments. So there is no 5% for this, 3% for that. It's either 10, 20, 30. I don't think I've ever seen a 20.
I don't know.
I don't know. I've seen 10 and then 30, 40, 50.
Well, maybe they just skip over 20 like because 20? When it adds together in their form of mathematics,
it just doesn't function.
20 doesn't exist.
Well, you know, but you're right. You're right. I think it's their math. Their math ain't mathing.
No, it doesn't. It does not math at all. So, you know, when you talk about how these increments that we're working with here, it's because different conditions are assigned a certain percentage rating.
Yes, and multiple conditions are actually rated separately.
Right. So if you have migraines and you have tinnitus and you have hearing loss and you have a foot problem, that's 4 separate things that are rated individually.
Yes.
And then they take their math and they throw out real math because it doesn't work in their system.
And we'll get into the math. We will get into the math.
They mush those ratings together and they come up with your overall rating.
Exactly. So that's exactly what it is. But the nice thing is even if you do get rated at 0%, it still gives you that service connection.
Yes. And
it still qualifies you for health care for that condition.
Right. So they might say, it's not impacting your day-to-day enough to give it a 10% rating, but you know, you get health care, so as it progressively gets worse. And let's face it, sometimes that's exactly what happens. Things do tend to get worse.
Go downhill.
You know. So, you know, it's important that you qualify for that health insurance because let me tell you, it's a godsend.
It really is. And you have to realize that a rating is not a label. It's the formula.
It is.
Okay, let's look at how ratings are actually determined.
Okay. So the VA is going to use medical records.
Yeah.
Their records that they would have in file from when you were in service.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can get your records from any physicians that you have gone to
Outside
since
of.
you were separated. Yeah, that were outside. Or even if you are on any part of the VA things right now, you might have like TRICARE or something like that, but you're going to look into the disability aspect of things. You might say, well, I'm not happy with going to that guy. I'm just going to go and do it on my own. We had to do that.
True. That's true. If you've had to go outside.
We've had to do that before we learned about community care.
Well, even with community care, I have found that they don't necessarily communicate all of the information to the VA. They might just give a synopsis.
But the important part is you want to gather as much of your medical records as possible, just to get copies of the files. And sometimes it's hard remembering all the doctors you might have gone to. But then they take these and those records and they have a thing they call the C&P exams, which is basic compensation and pension exams.
Yeah.
And they've got their little diagnostic codes.
Oh, yes. Got to have a code attached for every diagnosis. You know how that goes.
Like reading the things you get back from the insurance. Explanation of payment. And you're like, what did I have done?
And what
is this?
And there's a code next to everything. So you could probably look it up if you really want.
Yeah, if you got really that curious.
Yeah, we gave you a fork with your lunch. I mean...
And we gave it a code.
Exactly. But then the VA also actually has a schedule for rating disabilities.
Yeah.
They have a schedule.
I think you can actually go out onto the VA website.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, go out on va.gov and you can find a lot of the information, all of the information that we're telling you.
Definitely.
It's just we weeded out that information for you to make it a little bit easier.
Exactly. And then, what they're going to do is they're going to take all your medical records and they'll, see you. Most times they'll call you and they'll want to run all kinds of tests and stuff like that. But then they're going to, they're going to do an evaluation of all this information. And then they want to look at like the severity of what you're dealing with, how frequent you're dealing with it, because some things like migraines can be a come and go thing. Back pain, some people it's constant, some people it's come and go. And then they were also going to look at functional impact that these conditions have on you.
Yeah, most definitely.
So this is what's being looked at and considered.
We can give you an example, and we're going to throw that tinnitus and migraines out there again. If you look at tinnitus, that is commonly rated at 10%, and that's usually the maximum that they give. And I'm going to say the word usually because that doesn't mean that you can't have an unusual circumstance where you would get more, but the max is usually 10%. And then there's migraines. That might be anywhere from 0, 10, 30, 50%.
Right.
That depends, like we were talking, that severity, frequency, that all adds in. And then like mental health conditions, those often fall into 30, 50, 70, or even 100%. And again, that depends on occupational and social impairment.
Right.
So there's more than just, do I have a claim?
Right.
It's
all about the functionality.
Yes. How does it affect you?
Yeah.
How severe, how functional, how frequent.
Which that's how they determine what the percentage for that one condition is.
Exactly.
All right. Time for our math lesson. Yeah, you thought that you didn't have to deal with math after you got out of high school. Well,
yes, this is VA Math 101, where the confusion begins.
Most definitely. Because in the VA, they don't add percentages normally.
No, they
not at all.
Don't. And we're going to give an example. 50% for PTSD and 30% for migraines. You don't get 80%.
No, you don't. Not at all.
No.
Because you're looking at it, you have to start with the whole person.
Yeah, that's actually what the VA uses, something that they call the whole person theory. Did you see how they scienced that one up?
Okay, I don't like using the term theory because it's really a misnomer.
Well, but that's what they call it. It is the theory of the whole person.
Okay.
Whatever.
All right. So we're going to theorize here
Yes.
in mathematical terms.
Yes.
So we're going to start with the idea, and this is what they do, that 100% of a fully able person, so you don't, you're completely functional, 100% functional. Well,
Just put this up here.
okay. At a 50%, now if you get a 50% rating, that means that you are 50% efficient.
Yes, you're considered 50%. I guess that means half of you still work.
Rather than saying that you're 50% defunct, no, they're going to go with the positive. You are 50% efficient.
I like the positive.
So now, talking about the migraines, if you had a 30% rating on that migraine situation, it's not just add 30% on. No, it's 30% of your 50% functionality.
Yes, because they take what you are considered efficient,
right,
and that is their starting point. So they always start at the 100, and then once you get a rating, that is your new 100.
That's your new base. That's exactly. It's the start over point. So you're starting at a 50%. So you're taking 30% disability of the 50%.
Exactly.
No, that just, most people don't want to see it that way because it just doesn't sound right.
So here is the math.
The math, exactly.
50% left you with 50% remaining.
Right.
30% of 50% is 15%.
It is. But remember, they go on tens.
That's right. So even though 50 and 15 is 65%.
Right. You're going to get bumped up to a 70% rating.
Exactly. So this is the only place in the world where 50 plus 30 does not equal 80.
Nope. Okay, so now we're moving on.
We're moving on.
And we're going to talk about, what the ratings affect.
Yeah, because they do affect different things. One of the big ones is your monthly compensation.
Definitely. Obviously, the higher your disability rating is, the more money you get paid every month.
Exactly.
So this is why you see so many things coming across Facebook, getting your VA rating up there.
Yes.
And part of that has to do with the fact that so many things people overlook or push to the wayside and say, oh, that couldn't possibly be.
Well, I think for years they didn't even realize the connection.
There's that.
And then they'd never, let's face it, when you leave service, you're not told, check it out, see if you're eligible
Look at all
for
your
anything.
benefits.
Well, I mean, you're not told anything.
No, you're not.
You're just, thanks a lot, pal. We enjoyed your service. Out you go. I mean,
yeah. You're on reserve for a couple of years.
Here's your DD 214. It's up to you to figure out what to do with it.
Yeah, that just says you're gone. You're not done, disconnected.
Yeah, so monthly compensation, that's one of the big ones.
The other part is it also has to do with the eligibility for additional programs that they have available.
Yes, there are other programs. And obviously we're not going to go into all of that right here. But one of the big ones is healthcare priority groups. Mm-hmm. Because based on your rating, you get prioritized differently with the VA.
Yeah.
As far as receiving the help.
Right. And depending on what your rating is, it can actually impact dependent benefits in a positive way.
Yes, that's true. That's true. And then there is the possibility, and I know in our state, you get the property tax exemption.
Yes.
But you have to check with your state and you have to see what it is that the state offers. Some of them give it to them right up front. Others want you to be 65. Others want something else. You just have to check on your state website with your taxes and see what they offer you.
Right. And then, of course, there's eligibility for things like the total disability, individual unemployability. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of words.
Which is why they call it the TDIU. Because that's a lot of words.
Nobody wants to say that.
No, but nobody really knows what TDIU is.
No.
Because they don't put it in a parenthesis and then you got to go dig it up.
Exactly.
So now you know.
Well, and that allows payment at 100%.
Yes.
If it's service-connected condition and it prevents substantial employment.
Yeah, it's got to be substantial employment.
Definitely.
Okay, let's talk about some common rating misunderstandings that we have.
Yeah. The thing that hits me is the fact that people thinking that, well, if I work, I can't have a rating. Not true in most cases.
Yeah, not true in most cases. And then also they think that if they file, it's going to reduce their current rating. Now, that is a possibility, but it is not automatic. And I just don't know how often it happens. I do not have percentages on that.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself because I haven't come across anything and I haven't had to go down that rabbit hole.
No, me neither.
Another thing that's also misunderstood too is that with mental health ratings that they're being permanent. And that's not always the case.
No, it is not. Because I think that there are some issues that they can fall under mental health,
right?
That, and I hate to use the term cured, but resolve themselves.
Right.
And then, I mean, you always have the option that if something reoccurs or whatever, you can go back and you can apply again.
Definitely.
But yeah, there is that possibility.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is I need to be physically missing a limb to qualify. That is entirely false. Entirely false, because there's so many things that can be.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times has somebody driven by a handicapped parking spot and they're like, well, that person just hopped out of the car like there was no tomorrow and they got a sticker.
And they have no clue what's going on.
No, they don't, because a lot of things can be internal.
Right.
So there's that.
Okay, so we're moving on to our next little topic here.
Yeah.
It has to do with why understanding ratings really matters in this process.
Well, I think it's because if you don't understand how the system works, you just might accept whatever you've been given. You just might accept that. And that might not necessarily accurately reflect what your condition and or conditions are.
Right. And rather than having to play the ping pong game back and forth and continually going back in for things and changing things and questioning things, getting it done up front, which goes back to what I had originally said last week about you need to be your best self-advocate.
Yeah, most definitely.
And because oftentimes, let's face it, you've got people that are going to want to prevent you from getting all the higher ratings. And your job as your advocate is to push for it. So you want to make sure that you really understand how the system works and you really understand your conditions so that you don't short sell yourself.
Yeah, and definitely take advantage of the people that are out there. And we're going to say VSO is one of them. There are people out there that will help you
definitely
with your claim. If you're not sure, you need some guidance or whatever, I highly recommend using somebody. They know.
Yeah. Well, they know what they look for. They know the buzzwords. And that's a lot of the important things there is using the right terminology is
that's
big.
That's
thing.
big. Yeah.
It can prevent having paperwork being sent back.
Yeah. And one of the things that people worry about is how it's perceived when they file a claim. Please know, knowledge about this is important. It is not gaming the system. No. It's actually learning how to navigate it.
It is.
It's learning how
because
to
you're not
wade through the weeds.
Something. The muck and the mire. But what we're talking about here isn't about trying to take advantage in a negative thought process of the system, that you're doing something just to garner funding for yourself.
No, absolutely.
What we're talking about is you're taking advantage of the benefits due you because you have actual situations in your person that justify it.
Exactly.
So, it's a good system that works when you know how to work through the system.
Which is why we're here trying to point you in directions. So we would like to know, are you surprised at all on how VA math works? Drop a comment down there.
Yeah.
We invite you to like and subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes.
Exactly.
And
just know that understanding your rating, it's not about chasing numbers.
No.
It's about understanding how your service connected conditions are
Exactly.
being recognized and what that means for your long-term situation.
Yeah, that stability. You want that stability. Because let's face it, if you're an injured vet and you've got something going on that you know is lifelong,
Mm-hmm.
how many of them, and this goes back to Tallulah's Village that we're working on, how many of them end up homeless because they don't have the financial
Right.
stability?
Right.
They just don't, and they don't know what is out there for them.
Exactly.
So there you go, folks. Coffee is on.
Chaos is managed.
That's Couch Talk.